And they're off.
Further Faster, the best independently owned outdoors store in the known universe. Whether you're heading out on climbing, paddling, tramping or running adventures, look no farther than Further Faster for all your gear and expertise needs over the winter. Head over to 57A Buchan Street, Sydenham or Tautahi, Christchurch, or hit them up at furtherfaster.co.nz.
You got it right first time. That's outrageous.
I could read good.
It goes something like further, faster, there in Christchurch. Rocky is hairy and so is Badger. Jules is nice and Jacob is delicious. Go to further, faster now.
Oh, further, faster, there in Christchurch. Rocky is hairy and so is Badger. Jules is nice and Jacob is delicious.
Go to further, faster now.
Dirt Church Radio.
Episode 325 of Dirt Church Radio. We made it.
Yes.
Well, when I say we, it's the Ellie and Andrew show again.
I know, that's what Matt called it.
Yeah.
But hey.
It's all right.
Good.
He'll be busy later. Don't worry. He
Yeah,
hasn't
he will
he
be.
hasn't checked out. We're not letting him
Nah.
off. Today's episode is all about the mighty Bryon Powell.
Yeah. I really since this chat, there's been a lot of moments that I was like, man, that was there were some profound moments in this chat. And what an incredible human. He founded iRunFar. He's raced for decades now. He's written books about trail and ultra running, and his storytelling, I think we were chatting off mic earlier, is just really amazing to be part of. Hey,
Absolutely. I actually have my copy of his book is signed by him, which I didn't even get to fanboy on because I hit the wrong button at the end of our interview and I hung up on him instead of the old, we'll catch you later, but not really. You know, and
treat him mean, Andrew.
Yeah. It's like, thanks, man. Boom, gone. Oh, there's two red buttons in this app. You'd think I'd be good at technology, but yeah, no, it turns out. Nonetheless, it was an awesome chat, and he's just so good at answering questions. He's just such a pro.
Yeah.
You'll hear all of that really soon. So, we're excited to bring that to you. So please enjoy it. Ellie, what else is going on?
Oh, before we get to the interview this week, or the greatest run ever, we should bring you an announcement from His Excellency Sir Lord Ben Berryman, Mayor of the Blue Mountains, regarding our unofficial, regarding our Ultra Trail Australia preview and a description of the 100-mile course. So he sent us a WhatsApp message and I had a lot of laughter coming out. He said, and I quote, "Having carefully considered the representation of the opening 60K of the new 100-mile course in the most recent episode of Dirt Church Radio, I would like to offer a point of clarification. People will explode. The first 60 is brutal. There is nothing on the existing 100K course that compares. This is new level tough. I hope people enjoy it."
God, Australians in their hyperbole. You'll all be fine. Just put one foot in front of the other. No, we'll find out. We've definitely got some people to ask afterwards how much they enjoyed it.
Yeah, we definitely do. It's going to be really exciting. I mean, it's pretty cool, right? Whenever there's an inaugural something, it's pretty neat to be part of. So,
the great unknown.
Yeah.
And as I think we said before, that part of the course looks awesome. And I've got serious FOMO on that one. So
Kerry and I were
watching.
trying to work out kind of predicted timings for what people will run for this, because obviously it's a new kind of thing, and we reckon kind of, what was it, double your UTA time, maybe just a little bit under UTA 100. We shall see.
So what's guys, the top boys are running UTA at about 9 hours, eh?
Maybe a bit less.
18 for the 100-miler for the top, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll find out soon.
We will. It's going to be, exciting.
Hot off the press as of a few hours ago, Megan Eckert from the USA. I know it's not trail running, but it's something that I really enjoy. Well, maybe not as far as she's gone. She's just broken the world record for 6 days. She has travelled over 600 miles. Her total is actually 970.685 kilometres. And in fact, she was only a few miles short of Joe Fages, I don't know if the J is silent, American men's record, which is just phenomenal. What a performance.
That's huge. Like 100 miles each day. What do you reckon, Andrew?
Oh, it's
6 days.
extraordinary. It's extraordinary. I mean, it's exactly the same pace as a backyard, which is really interesting. And in fact, she's also incredible at backyards. But I understand she approached it a bit like backyard pacing.
Okay.
And basically did it for 6 days. I don't know how many loops would that be. I didn't actually crunch the numbers on that. It's a lot of loops. Look at you, Belgians. She's coming for your record. So anyway, well done. Amazing performance, and got a little 24 of my own this weekend. Not 6 days, just one day, but that will feel like 6 days, I imagine, at 3 a.m.
What do you reckon you're going to hit for that? Put it out there, Andrew. Tell us.
Oh, man, the problem is I still haven't figured these darn things out. There is one number that is enticing, let me put it that way, and that is my age group national record, which is 224 kilometres. My PB is 222, so it will require a little bit better than that. We will see.
Do you reckon you're in that shape?
No, I'm in awful shape. Absolutely appalling. Haven't been able to train properly. I've had ingrown toenails and all sorts of other gross issues. So, no, it'll be a disaster, but we're going to give it a crack.
Show up, blow up.
Show up and blow up.
No, don't do that. Yeah. I want more from you for that.
Oh, okay. Yep. Well, watch this space. We'll reconvene next Monday. We'll see how it goes.
This will be exciting. I can't wait to hear how it goes.
We'll be a vegetable next week anyway. Okay, we should probably crack on with this.
It's the greatest run ever. It's the greatest run ever.
Greatest Run Ever, brought to you by Squad Run. Give their 4-week special coaching trial a go. You can find the link on the website, www.dirtchurchradio.com. This is the part of the show where we ask you to write into us and tell us your greatest run ever. It doesn't have to be a race or a mountain summit. Might just be a run around the block. Something that's sung to you for some reason. Send it into us, dirtchurchradio@gmail.com. This one is from Peter Bircham. Don't forget where you come from. That's all I could muster. Nothing wiser, nothing more poignant, nothing that would sustain him in times when he was alone, when times were tough and brutal, when the doubt set in and when he questioned who he really was. Nothing more. I was done. I slumped into the white plastic chair in the recovery room, thoughts blearily racing in my head, expecting my emotions to bubble over and waiting for the tears to flow. They never came. This seemed at complete odds to the meticulous replays that I had played over and over in my head on those long runs alone. I would cross the line, fall into the arms of my wife, hug my sons and daughters, high-five the crew and celebrate the moment with tears of joy. It was planned. Don't forget where you come from. Really? That was it? The moment is blown, never to repeat itself. So how can this be the greatest run ever when the pinnacle of finishing was underlined with a blurb of a thought, a brain blimp, a departure from the endless hours of rehearsal, a let down lacking in any real display of emotion, encased only in burning physical pain and a want for rest, unplanned and untethered. But it was. It will always be. Because words never can replace that finishing line. Nothing can replace the 100 miles of Tarawera. Nothing can take that moment away from us all. The miler journey eased into my consciousness as the next logical step after completing the 102K in 2024. Run 100Ks? Why not run 100 miles? Easy. At the time, it was a grand idea. Train and you will get there, not a problem. So day after day, week after week, I trained, taking time out from the family, from work, from time spent together. It seemed natural to put one foot in front of the other, the miles ticking away easily, the volume increasing and the months moving on gently like a timeless movie. Training became a blur, lacing up the shoes and taking off into hours of alone time, thoughts bouncing and rocking back and forth, lungs and legs rhythmical, taking me from street to street, trail to trail and adventure to adventure was normality. But I almost missed it. Well, missed is not really the correct word. I almost didn't register it. 2 kids off to university about the same time that the miler would happen. The nest would be close to empty. The days and nights stripped of the presence of 2 beautiful beings who had been nurtured for years on end. The emotion was tied. Complete the race, wave goodbye. Each training day began to take on new meaning, each step taking me one step closer to a void in which I'm not sure I could navigate. But it wasn't until 3 weeks out from the miler that things got even more real. Metastatic Ewing sarcoma is vicious. Not something you would want to encounter on a late night in an alleyway with a plastic spoon quietly stolen from the kids' pack on an Emirates long-haul flight. Yet vast oceans away, a young man was dealing with it, his body giving way to this invasive cancer. And it resonated. It resonated because this young man and his family had looked after my young man when he was in need of love, support, miles away from his family on the opposite end of the globe. They had pulled him in, showed him a home away from home, taking an experience that was filled with doubt and fear and moulding it into one of richness. I needed to do the same. I had to do the same. My why became even more real when we found out our races were intertwined. The race itself, well, I could harp on about how the first 88 kilometres to outlet was magical with the body easing through the miles like it was made to. I could talk about ending up on my head in a ditch about 40 Ks and quads screaming and stretching trying to break my fall, or missing my support crew ready for Kaitu, aimlessly walking around the aid station like a lost kid at Disneyland until finally locating them on the side of the trail. I could tell you how it all fell apart after 88 Ks, the quads disintegrating, the gait becoming a walk, the mind playing tricks in the dark. Sleeping bags and walkers in the trees, imaginary runners tailing us, wetters aimlessly crossing my path. Man, there's some awesome hallucinations. All the concern from the pacers that I wasn't going to make it. Bro, you looked like I'd have to perform CPR for the second time, and you know the first time didn't go well for me. The sideways stair navigation at Redwoods, the grunts and groans of an old man traversing the trails with an imaginary Zimmer frame. But it was always about the ending. I knew it was always going to be about the ending. As I approached the metal barriers funneling us towards the end, my 18-year-old son, best mate, and youngest son in tow, my daughter ever present in my thoughts, I replayed over and over again the meaning of the now and the why. We didn't need to say much those last few kilometres. The 100 miles prior had said enough already. They all saw the pain. They all saw the want. They saw me at my utmost lowest and kept putting one foot in front of the other. They saw me never give up and work through the challenge, taking my licks on the chin and getting back up and trying again. They saw despair and it was real. I had done my job. I crossed the finish line, giving the silent fist pump in my head and cracking a broad smile, embracing all those within reach. We had done it, with time pausing for an ever-brief moment as we closed yet another chapter in our lives. The legs and body started to give way as the mind realised that it didn't really need to give anything anymore. So I struggled my way over to the Pounamu table, reaching for my son amongst the early morning delirium. "Don't forget where you come from," I blurted out, presenting him with the Pounamu and embracing him in the tightest of hugs. An embrace filled with joy, passion and love, tears welling in his eyes, the years melting away under the never-ending grip of Dad holding on to his boy and not wanting to let him go. Yet knowing it was time to say goodbye. Let him run his own race, it said. Don't forget where you come from. Perhaps those were the right words at the time. Maybe nothing else needed to be said as the journey had said enough. An indelible imprint forged by one incredible day. A timeless moment that had brought us all together. Perhaps the more was inherent in the unsaid words. So was it the greatest run ever? Yeah, greatest run ever. How could it not be? He told me not to say that, but I said it anyway. A massive shout out to my wife, who was not only the bestest crew chief, but also the most bestest life crew. Thank you to all those who contributed to Nico's cause. Your love and support makes a difference and makes a difference to someone whom you don't even know. It warms my heart to know that out there, people are willing to look beyond their immediate sphere and support others.
Peter Birch, you owe me some tissues. Again.
Beautiful writing, mate.
It was beautiful, and I think something that, you know, people can relate to. And I think we all have how we want the finish line to be, but actually those raw moments are so powerful and beautiful, and it's how it's meant to be, however it is. So yeah,
I don't think a finish line's ever matched what I thought it would be. It's not better or worse or anything. It's just different.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I think visualizing the finish during a long race like these is so important.
Helpful, yeah.
And whether or not that actually is what it's like, is not as important as visualizing it and whatever it works out to be.
Yeah.
Now, Matt has written in very big letters here, please, please, please send in your greatest run ever. We are out.
We have nothing.
As in nothing. So,
and have people not been running?
or they've had terrible runs. Nothing but awful runs. Surely not.
Yeah, they've had some bad runs. I mean, it has been crappy weather, but you can still have a greatest run ever in bad weather.
I think you can definitely, sometimes without question of a doubt, your greatest run ever. Yeah. All right, let's crack on with our conversation with the legendary and almost local man, Bryon Powell of iRunFar.
Bryon Powell, welcome to Dirt Church Radio.
It's my pleasure to be here and in the same country as you for a change.
Yeah, I don't know if it's for a change. You've been here for a little while now, haven't you?
It's been a brilliant 4.5 months on the South Island. So yes.
4.5 months. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he's living the dream.
That does sound amazing. Whereabouts have you been based?
I've been based in Wanaka. My wife and I were here last southern summer as well for, I guess, 3.5 or 4 months that time. So it's kind of become a thing, and it's spectacular.
Isn't that an old 60s surfing movie, Chasing the Summer? Sounds like what you're
Endless summer of some sort.
Endless
yeah.
Summer. That's it.
Yeah, when I said Kerry was like, is he living here now? I was like, pretty much.
For all intents and purposes, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Will it be a yearly thing?
We're on the schedule for next southern as well.
Are you? Why do you keep coming back here then?
You've been outside of New Zealand.
I think we
You can answer
know,
that question. No, but the running and the fishing, which I do also enjoy, are spectacular here. But the setting, the people, the culture, it's just wonderful over here.
So what's going to happen when you go back home? What's the plan?
Cry.
Should we go global, or should I talk about myself?
It's totally up to you, mate.
Yeah,
Whatever.
This is a heavily charged political podcast.
I have just lots of life stuff to catch up on, obviously, after being gone for 4.5 months. So all those things that pile up with home maintenance and filing taxes and all that fun stuff. But fortunately, I have a couple weeks of that, and then I will go pace Andy Jones Wilkins, who some longtime ultra runners will know. He's running the Cocodona 250 mile in early May. So get a couple weeks of taking care of stuff, and then go play in the desert for a week.
Fun.
And get lots of beer recommendations during the run, I'm sure.
We'll probably discuss beer, although I'm not sure how much he's going to want to discuss beer in the second half of a 400-kilometer run. I know it's generally not at the top of my.
How long's your pacing duties? How far are you running?
I think I've got 250K stretches, more or less.
All right, 2 times 50K, right? Not 250K, right? It's decent.
Yeah, I'm not too intimidated, but actually, I mean, if you all have paced in the past, like pacing is a challenge. I remember pacing at a 100-miler many, like 2+ decades ago. And at the time I was a 20-hour Western States guy, and the guy I was pacing was probably an upper 20, like 28, 27-hour kind of person. And I was pacing him at a race, and come second sunrise, like he dropped me because you're the runner, you're in your race. Like if you're sleepy, you're kind of in a zone that like can help transcend that. Whereas if the pacers had a long, busy week leading up to it, well, maybe.
I've never dropped a pacer. Have you dropped a pacer?
Definitely not me.
I've dropped a pacer before. It feels really, really good. You're like, damn, I don't have my pacer. I just dropped my pacer.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, it feels good.
No, usually I'm just hanging on for dear life when my pacer joins me.
What advice would you give to pacers, Bryon? Like, obviously, you've got a bit of experience. So what would you say to people that are pacing for something like that?
Well, I've never paced, to be clear, at a 250 miles. So that's going to be totally separate. But like, you just have to give in, as in so many things in life, you have to give in that you're doing this for them.
Yeah.
And this is their event and their race and their accomplishment. So whatever, not baggage you come into, but whatever your goals are and whatever your philosophy of running is, or whatever that, you have to check that and put that aside. Now you can encourage them in all the different ways you can through carrot or stick or however, but get in tune with what they enjoy. Like there's people who want the hard pacer and there's people who want the soft pacer, and you got to go with that. And it can be really physically challenging because, so say if you're with a runner and they're running, they're trying to run, and the pace is just phenomenally slow, but they're doing the running motion. So like if there's races that allow you to pace in front of them, you kind of got to be running. It's really demoralizing to be like doing a slow saunter, and they're giving up. And so it's just being kind, but like the same with if you're pacing late in a race, like maybe you'd be running all the descents. If you were just out for a training run and they can't run downhill anymore, like that's really physically taxing if
Yeah.
you're having to brake on every step. So just be prepared for that. The physical challenges could be very real, even if you're trained to a much higher level. There's and to be prepared for longer stretches than maybe you're used to for food and hydration, and not only like if it's any could be cool at all, like just being able to stay warm because you could be again moving really
Mm.
slowly. So
And this is a
totally different. Like going out
desert.
for a 30K run in the evening, it's
And a lot of biting your tongue too, I think, like kind of I'm cold, I'm tired, I'm hungry.
oh
I'm
for
like
sure.
yeah.
Yes, dear.
Now, the thing is that you can flip that, and those are really good cues. And I just had a meeting with AJW and his other crew and pacers this past week, and you can kind of flip that. And oh, I'm getting cold. I
Yeah.
should either, depending on how their style is, sometimes they want to be told, put on a jacket, put on gloves, or some people want to be asked, like, hey, is it time to put on a hat
Yeah.
now? Or is it time to eat? Is it time to drink? Or if it's really hot out, should you wet down the next stream we cross? So,
Treat them like a toddler. With
Yeah.
high
100%.
emotions.
That's like, at least how I see it, like, that's the main role is like as much as you can offload someone's brain. And I've
Mhm.
not paced at a 250 mile before, but
Mm.
having run a couple, like just taking that mental burden off or being a backstop on the mental side is super huge. No matter that person could have decades more experience than you, the person you're
Mm.
pacing, but to make those help them make those decisions or help them not forget to do something.
Mm.
Was that a superb segue to give us an opportunity to talk about Ultra Gobi?
100% it was. So
Having run those sorts of races?
Ultra Gobi, Bryon, I think I remember reading something about you telling them not to pay prize money and then you went and won it. Like, is that what happened?
It wasn't even prize money. They, I mean, I'd run the race and in 2015 and I'd wanted to run it once or twice since then, and it just logistics didn't work out. So anyway, I had a really good relationship with the race, and kind of as they're coming back from a COVID hiatus this past year, just had some conversations with like the organization, and they were asking me kind of like on the marketing side, well, just your advice. And I was like, well, you used to or you've had in the past this $1,000 prize for somebody who breaks the race record, like the course record, but the course changes, so they call it a race record.
Yeah.
And like that's just silly. That's going to invite the wrong people. They're going to show up, try to win money, and then walk off. Like they're just anyway. Long story short, um, they didn't have prize money for that, and
Oops.
happened to be the person who set the race record. So surprise.
What sort of numbers were they throwing? Did they were they talking numbers? What they?
Well,
What
it was
they
10,000 US.
10,000
Whoa, 10,000 US.
Good 17,000 Kiwi dollars. So
Oh,
That'd probably last you a lot of the time that you've spent here. Like, were you regretting that, or were you like, no, that's
yeah, no, and it's totally. And that was an independent. I had no thought of winning, of setting a race record, so
Yeah.
like it was independent of that, and I still would give that advice. Like, it's just I can understand having prize money for super competitively deep races, and especially races maybe that already are deep and adding a little more depth to the competition. But as a one-off piece of prize money, I don't know.
Can you see any of the other? You talk about these big races, like UTMB doesn't have prize money, do they?
They do
And-
now.
Oh, they do now. Okay.
Not in the grand scheme of things, not.
Yeah, the people that are winning it are already well sponsored and well taken care of generally, aren't they?
Generally speaking, though, Vincent, last year's winner, he's a Hoka employee, but he wasn't a
Oh,
sponsored
that's right.
runner.
Yeah, true.
Technically, yeah, he got on the shoes he wanted, but
What is your take on that, like the sponsorship side of things and prize money? Like, I want to go back to Ultra Gobi, so like let's not
Yep.
forget about that. But
Segue.
yeah, what is your take on that? Because I know we've kind of talked in the past about how the sport is changing and the rise of professionalism. Yeah, I'd love to hear a bit more about that.
I mean, it's just incredible, the rise of professionalism. just was talking with Anna Frost on a hike last week,
Ah.
and just I remember being in the sport in 2009 or 10 or whatever. Like I was first went full time on iRunFar,
Hmm.
and the guys and gals in the North Face team, as far as I could tell, were making in the US $10,000 range. And I mean, we're talking
Mm.
like don't quote me, I didn't see individual contracts, but we're talking
Yeah.
this is in the era when like the Mike Wolfs were on the podium at the big races, the Jez Braggs, the Hal Kerners, and I don't know their individual contracts, but that gives you a sense. And now,
Mm.
I mean, I'm sure there's folks like Killian who've been making well into the six figures for quite a while, but I mean, I think we're at the point where there's a dozen or more. I have no idea the exact number of people that would be there making six figures plus as professional trail and ultra runners. And I mean, I don't see any harm in that. I think it's as I've seen, there's a lot of hand wringing when, say, a decade ago, Nike came out with a trail team in the US, and they recruited heavily like people who weren't recruiting the Hal Kerners or the Scott Jerks or the existing people in the sport. They were finding folks who came out of college with, and maybe they run a couple road marathons, and we're talking like 2:15 marathoners or two, or great, came from great programs on the university side. And there's all this hand wringing of like, oh, this is just going to change the spirit of the sport and the type of people that are up at the front. And lo and behold, it wasn't. Like, if you were to, like, the people who were on that team, a bunch of them are leading, like, either they're viticulturalists or they're leading wilderness conservation groups or they're putting on races in their hometown, or somebody like Alex Varner was running the Dipsy race in the headlands when he was a kid. Like, these are people who came to the trail on their own, loved the trail, and stuck to the trail. And I think the long story short is I think that's still the case. You can't go win a UTMB or a Western States and freaking hate trail running. And you have to have that love of you have to have the passion for it, or you're just not going to stick to it. It's going to be frustrating and not fun. And I just don't. At least to this point, the level of prize money and the level of sponsorships doesn't rise to the level to take people with passion for the sport off the podiums.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting spicier though, aren't they, those podiums? I mean, the
It's
speeds we're
it's
seeing.
fast as heck. But
Yeah.
that's the nature of everything. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the nature of your local park run. That's the nature of the top road races in the world these days. And
I think it's quite good too. That it's answering a lot of questions I think we've had in the ultra community for a long time. Is are the people who are winning these races only winning them because the marathon Olympians aren't doing them? There was always that sort of lingering thought of, are these really the fastest people or just the fastest people that want to do this? And I think now we're seeing like genuinely fast marathoners turning up and fully committing to the trail running scene and finding it very challenging. I mean, they're good. They're obviously towards the front there. I mean, obviously I'm thinking of Dan Jones here in New Zealand as a really good example, top marathoner, incredibly fast runner. And yes, he's right at the pointy end and he's winning. I mean, that marathon he won, the Sodoma Marathon last weekend, was outrageous speed. But, he hasn't won Western States yet. The guys at the front there,
and you could look back a decade and Mike Aish from New Zealand was the same case,
Yes.
like a two-time Olympian. And he's paced me at Hard Rock, a friend, like a person I consider a friend. Like, there's no diss on him, but like, here's a person with legit Olympic potential. And it doesn't mean Olympians can't win. Magda Boulet has won some of the big races out there, and she was a US marathon Olympian. So I think whether it's been identified through previous athletic achievement, the people at the top of the sport are incredibly talented. Is there another couple percent of more talent? I wouldn't just say more talent, people who have the talent and the training and the commitment. Is there another set of percentages above that? Yes, probably. But
it's very tiny, isn't it?
again, are the incentives, are we getting so close that those people know they have a set, a path in their country's athletics programs or in the road running scene? But we're going to keep finding out. There's no indication that things are going to get slower. The prize money's not going down. As far as I know, it's the sponsorship deals are still going up. So I think there's nothing that's going to start taking away from that.
I've seen that they want to include trail running in the Olympics in 2032, I think it is. Is it Olympics?
Do they?
I think it's the Olympics, or is it Com Games? I'm trying to remember. Brisbane.
Oh,
There's definitely
2032
a
is
push.
Olympics. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think that would do if we had trail running in the Olympics?
I mean, it
More
would
sport.
depend on what the distances are. That's a huge.
I think the proposal was kind of like marathon and 80K.
80K.
Okay.
Yeah,
So like,
which I thought was
so
quite surprising.
so like trail in the sense of what like is currently through athletics, like the Trail World Championships, like a marathon and a 80K type. Okay.
Mm.
I mean, I don't know if I've really wouldn't speak out against it. I'm just not a fan. Like, it doesn't motivate me at all to have that. I just, maybe that would be the tipping point. But then why would those people necessarily, or when it's going to be different people winning? Like, I think it would change who's at lead. Like, why wouldn't somebody, you'd find programs, and like right now, I think it's in Kenya that they've started developing like a trail series in the country, and some of those East African countries are like, I think Uganda, and maybe it has been Kenya, has been sending good teams to like the short distance mountain running championships, and I think you're going to see further development there within the country. But point being, if it became an Olympic sport, this isn't rocket scientists, and there's going to be learning curve and failures, but like if it's an 50 or a marathon or an 80K, there's nothing wrong to say that over a 4-year period, some Ethiopian or Kenyan athletes can't get to and far above the level. I mean, these people have trained, have the genetics to allow it, but also have worked incredibly hard for decades. And there's nothing to say. I mean, they've been running on dirt tracks and dirt roads. It's not like this, and they've done really well at those short, even sometimes steep descents in mountain running. So there's nothing suggesting that they couldn't come from a 206 marathon to ho-hum 207 marathon.
Yeah, which is terrifying.
And then it just matters, like, what is the sport that actually gets to the Olympics? Is it a what happened to mountain biking, and it's just a loop course and essentially glorified, like cross country, like just a really benign course? Well, then like that is even more favors, some of the people with maybe less experience, as opposed to the Kilian Jornets of the current world, or even the Jim Walmsleys, who have more experience on technical trail. And it's not to say, it's just where the sport would choose to go, because any of those Olympic venues could find perfectly technical, hard ass courses within whatever the sphere of their footprint is in the country or countries that host. So it would really be a conscious decision by athletics, and wherever that goes. But for me, it seems so silly, because we still don't have. I grew up running like short distance cross country, and I loved it, and it shaped very much who I am. And that was an Olympic sport, and it is not.
Yeah.
And it is not. And I 100 times would want that to be an Olympic sport before trail running, because it's so accessible.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's huge in America too. I mean, the American team would be so strong.
Yeah, but like lots of other countries, I don't know. I see it as a winter sport, and it is competitive. Northern winter is the top competition season in the world, and it should be an Olympic or Winter Olympic sport. And again, if you look at wherever a Winter Olympics is hosted, I don't know if it's 100 miles or 100K with a radius that they compete in. There's always going to be some low elevation spot that could host. I mean, it could be an incredible cross country course with snow and mud, and
that's so cool. Actually, I never thought of it having it in the Winter Olympics.
That'd be awesome.
And then it would alternate every other year with the summer games, and you could have a running event in the Winter Olympics, and it wouldn't take away from the depth of competition, which is another thing. Like, it really wouldn't interfere too much, but like there is already an Olympic marathon, so you're gonna have a trail Olympic marathon too. It's like,
It would
Yeah.
well,
muddy the waters a bit, wouldn't it? Yeah.
yeah, like
But cross
I don't
country's
know.
really hard, Brian. I find it really hurty.
Oh, it is way hurty.
It's
I almost jumped in a park run this morning, and I went out for a 105-kilometer run 2 days ago, so I decided maybe it
Whew.
wasn't a great idea like to risk it. But running a 5K intimidates the heck out of me, way more than
absolutely.
stepping the line of a 400-mile or 400-kilometer race. Excuse me. I mean, the
Oh,
hardest
yeah.
race I've ever done is 800 meters on the track. Period.
Yeah.
Was that our segue back to Ultra Gobi? Was that? Is that what
Sure.
you're doing? Were you
800
putting the
meters on
little?
the track.
No, a long distance race.
I mean, I already put the spicy take, as I'll choose cross country over trail running in the Olympics.
I love it. I'm here for a spicy take.
Those mass starts that I see in the American collegiate level cross country, where they're like half a mile wide, aren't they? And then everyone's just sprinting so hard, eh? It looks awesome.
It's incredible. And like, especially again, it's a choice of like different courses and designers and whatnot. But like, you can make like hay bales and mud pits. And again, like if it's in a Winter Olympic sport, like you just kind of never know what you'd get on the weather front. Like if it's Brisbane in the
Yeah.
summer, like, okay, it's going to be,
Mount Coota,
Yeah.
10K loop. Yeah, that'd do it. Oof.
uh,
Would.
All right, Gobi.
Yeah, Gobi. So you've been there before, right?
yep, I ran in
What
2015.
what made you go back? Like, can you tell us a bit more about the race and its story?
I mean, the quick version of the race, it's a 400-kilometer race, not a stage race, a one push effort. Um, there's 35 or so checkpoints, and you get to self-navigate. They give you a recommended route, but not only is it not unmarked, you choose the route that you want to run, which is really cool. It's like completely open course, which I did a lot of. Or
Just point to point. You just got to make the checkpoints. That's it.
you just need to make the checkpoints. They give you water and like 10 of the checkpoints, like hot water as well. But it's very like, and dropbacks at the top, the 10 major checkpoints. But other than that, like you're carrying all your stuff. There's no crew, no pacers. So it's really, what's special to me about it is how just out there and wild and like, not isolating. I mean, I guess like unless you're with another runner, it's you, and it's kind of fun. You're self-reliant.
Did you have anyone with you?
Randomly, I ran the first 27 hours with a South African guy that I mean, kind of been on a group chat with. Leading up, they had all the international runners kind of on a group chat, which is fun to get to know folks. But yeah, just headed off the course, not in the recommended route, like 45 degrees off course, jumped on
Whoa.
the margin of a highway and ran down that for 15K just because it was going to be faster and easier than the windy dirt road they put the course on. And it totally worked out.
What is the terrain like?
It's as low as like 1,300 meters and probably goes up to over 3,500 meters. But like everything is just really gentle. Like I think the whole race had 6,000 meters of climb, ballpark.
Wow.
But like you'll be in a basin, you'll come over a pass, and then the last 200 or 250 kilometers were basically downhill until the last, I guess,
I'm just looking.
25.
You've got. It looks like a 120 kilometer continuous downhill.
Yeah.
Which is great.
It's insane.
That is great.
But it's fun because like you get to then think ahead of time, like, all right, what's my strategy on the underside of it, like the 160-mile climb or 160-kilometer climb that got you to that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's like,
that's
but
right.
it's pretty subtle, and there's places like, do I run or not? But like I planned my race out knowing that, oh, I want to save something because I have this forever just really perfect gradual descent. But the terrain is, I mean, I chose to get on sealed roads when I could because it was often it's just easier and faster. Like even if it's just the micro adjustments with your feet and ankles and stuff. I mean, I prefer running on the dirt, but and for that long, I'll take any advantage I can get or any minimalization of effort. A lot of dirt road. Very very rarely used dirt road. Like just think remote stuff in the middle of wilderness, and then a lot of what they call Gobi terrain, which is just wide open expanses of pretty hard packed dirt with like just packed like polished pebbles in it, like pretty much. Like I remember the first time I ran, there was a marathon across that Gobi terrain, and there were times where I would just try to. It was a flat, straight bearing, and I would just close my eyes and see how long I could run, and stay on the bearing, because there's really no
cool.
obstacle.
I'm just looking at your photos there. I mean, and I do want to talk about your photos because I read somewhere. How many photos did you take
12 or 1,300.
Holy moly.
during the race? That is so many. Is this
And
with
like
you?
I'm running along, most of those are like on the run. So yeah, there could be
Sure.
3 or 4 in like a little like sequence to see if I get one horizontal.
Are you taking a phone or like a proper camera?
The first time I actually took a camera,
Yeah.
this time the iPhone 16 Pro
Yeah,
camera
okay.
is like, I actually upgraded the phone just ahead of time.
Just for the photo.
Just to upgrade a couple generations. I'm like, all right, I'm going to be really enjoy taking these photos.
Hey,
Wow.
I was going to ask, the way that you've described the terrain makes me think it must kind of have some quite strong winds or something like that. Is it quite exposed? Like, what was the weather like, and what is the weather like? Do you have strong, like, headwinds or tailwinds or, yeah?
I don't know how it was like the perfect conditions throughout, essentially. You kind of fear the winds, because like I've been run the marathon to Sab in Morocco, and I remember a stage where there was just like a roaring headwind for kilometers and kilometers, and like you kind of did the Peloton rotation of a bike race where you're just like somebody would be out in front setting the pace, and you'd drop back, and like that's super hard. But I never. There's a couple days where there was a mild breeze, but yeah, I don't know if it's the time of year or what. I guess the first time when I ran it, there was a windy morning and like they would call it a blizzard, with like snow. But that's the difference, I guess the weather challenge, even in a perfect year like last year, was, it was -5 or -10 at the high elevations at night because it's perfectly clear. And then it never got really hot. I'm trying to do the conversion to Celsius, but like upper 20s, like
Okay.
at the highest.
Pretty
Which is,
reasonable.
and even that was like the highest. Like it was just like just the perfect cool temperature. You're like run along all day, never really notice sweating. You're not losing a ton of fluids, and
Mhm.
How much sleep did you manage to get?
3 hours.
Ooh.
3 hours across 70 odd, 60. Is that 69
69
hours?
hours. Yeah.
And how were you taking it? Were you doing like 10-minute, 20-minute naps, or did you have a longer one? Or
The first time I ran Ultra Gobi, I had seen Megan suffer at the Tour de Géant from sleep monsters. So I was like, that was my first 250-mile race. I really wanted to enjoy it. Like it was just going to be an adventure. So I slept the first 2 nights fully, and didn't regret that. I had a great time. But going back to Ultra Gobi, I knew I wanted to experiment with lack of sleep. So I came within a day of flying to the race in 2019 and had done a bunch of research talking to adventure racers. Like, if you're doing a full expedition length adventure race, what is the sleep plan? So I kind of talked through them, and my plan for this last year's Ultra Gobi was, if I could, skip the first night. And I've never really had a problem with sleep, like in the night, overnight for 100-milers. So I wasn't worried about that. And to sleep a couple sleep cycles on night 2. And I laid down, I was the sleepiest I've ever been in a race, going up a road at like midnight, 33 hours of the race, but I'd been up for like 39 hours or something. I don't know, like the middle of the second night. And I wasn't falling asleep on my feet, but I was just so sleepy. We had a Chinese smartphone you could talk via satellite phone. And you were only allowed to sleep randomly on the course for an hour. And I almost called like the emergency number to let them know, like, hey, I'm completely fine. I'm just really sleepy. I'm going to lay down for an hour. I'll call you in an hour and I'll be back on the course. I was going to sleep in the ditch. You had to carry a sleeping bag, so that wasn't going to be a problem. But and anyway, I got to the major checkpoint where I could sleep as long as I wanted. And sleep cycle's about 90 minutes. So I laid down and told one of the volunteers, asked how long I wanted to sleep for. And I said, wake me up in 5 hours. And that's what I set my alarm for. Anyway, I woke up after one sleep cycle ate just a little snack because couldn't eat when I got in there. But I had a snack, slept again, woke up after the second sleep cycle, planning to like eat and drink a little bit more and let that process while I slept. I don't know, it was like 2-3 minutes of being up. I was like, I feel really good. I don't think I
Yeah.
need to sleep anymore. Let's get out of here.
Let's go.
So, and I got up and kept going.
And that was it. That was your only. So
That
your
was it.
only sleep was in that one block.
Yeah.
That's a good way
3
to get a
hours.
massive PB.
True.
Just
Yeah,
like
I think
cut a couple of nights of sleep out.
totally. I mean, I added it up. I slept in 2 checkpoints that first time, and I tried to sleep in another one, but it was like I laid down like right as the sun was coming up and tent got hot. But anyway, I spent
Uh,
24 hours basically at those 3 checkpoints. And even if I'd not slept there, maybe it would have been 3 hours or 4 hours at those checkpoints if I'm not sleeping total. But I had 20 hours that I could cut a lot of time off on.
Yeah.
And so I did.
hey, there, with it,
Wow.
like thinking about sleeping in a ditch and the word desert, what kind of animals are there to consider? Like, I'm guessing scorpions or something like that, or not?
Ignorance is bliss.
Don't
Ignorance is bliss.
So the answer is you don't know.
do your research.
Yeah. I hadn't heard anything about snakes, and they would have mentioned snakes. Like they were pretty good at like a safety briefing. There
Okay.
are, I think, in some of the mountain areas, maybe they even had to change the course from an early version for this past year's race. There's some bears in the area, and I think they, not many. It's very, I mean, this is pretty deserty, and like they'd have to be up on what we would call in the U.S. like sky islands, like the really high elevation that gets enough moisture to kind of support the vegetation.
Oh, yeah.
So there is really small population. There were a herd of jackals on the course. So
Jackals.
they rerouted. I was, I think, in third at the time. I was trying not to pick it, but I don't know, I was at the front of the race, and everybody after me, they picked up, dropped off at like another point, and like had them run a different section of course that met up with where I was, like what the planned course was. Because and I didn't know it at the time, but I was running down a valley at like 2 or 3 in the morning, and there's like a policeman shooting off flares and fireworks.
Oh wow.
I'm like, no idea what's going on. And this is just the middle of nowhere. I'm on a dirt road, but like with no buildings, and they were just, I guess they were probably trying to scare off the jackals.
That were following you.
Yeah, maybe they're right
guess.
behind you.
So legitimately the herding dogs or the dogs in the area are the biggest threat. And it's not like some places, I don't know if you've been in like Southeast Asia, there's just like lots of like dogs around the town. It's not like that. It's herding dogs. And so you have big Tibetan Mastiffs and that sort of defensive breed, and like they'll be loose and you'll have to go past them, and it's you and there's nobody else, and
Mhm.
that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
And you just got to stay the course. They did for like a kilometer or maybe just over, they picked me and a couple other runners up in a vehicle and shuttled us past one place on like a paved road we were running. And another place later in the race, I had a race vehicle follow me for like an hour and a half because people, I guess there were 2 runners ahead of me. Somebody had notified them that there was a vicious dog on the course,
Phew.
which there are.
Oh, man.
This is the disadvantages of being at the front of the race. You're the first person to come across all this.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't even matter if you're first. Like, there's hours between us.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah.
It sounds very well organized. Like they're really looking after you guys out there and making sure everyone's okay.
100%. I mean, you had to carry a satellite capable phone along with a regular cell phone. You had a tracker on. They had like a 2-meter fixed wing drone that had thermal imaging on it. Like,
Whoa.
so if somebody if they're in the middle of nowhere and their tracker had stopped, like they were allowed to take a nap. You didn't have to. There was no protocol to call in. But if somebody had been, like, they would fly over, check, and maybe check in again later. So like, or somebody was way off course, like they wouldn't alert that person. Like that was your problem as part of the
really
race.
good idea.
But it's funny because the race is only 50 people. Maybe it was 52, but like think 50-ish people. But they had the race comes out of an organization that puts on a know if it's actually a stage race, but like a relay. They call it a relay race, but like a team race that's really, really, really popular with MBA students from Beijing. So there's all these like business schools that have to put together these teams, and like they'll have an A and a B and a C team, and like you'll move up through your years in school to like get on different teams, and like that's their
Whoa.
like it's a huge big deal. And like I don't know, people have been like gone on to be like the head of Lenovo or other companies you've heard of, like will run this race.
Wow.
And like that's their moneymaker.
Yeah,
And
that's
this
it. Yeah.
Ultra Gobi is the pinnacle aspirational race. It's like a North Face, the brand, having like an Alex Honnold or a Jimmy Chin or a Conrad Anker climbing, free climbing or climbing the biggest mountains in the world. Like you're never going to do that in that jacket, but it gives you something to aspire to. And some people have run the race at some point in their life, the shorter or the team race, and then moved on up over the years to
To the real
the
deal.
400K.
It's good though, because it means they get to iron out any issues that, especially with a lot of these people coming through who won't have the experience. They're sort of having to deal with that, look after them at that level. So when you pros come along, hey,
Yeah, and like everybody who's run the race has run essentially 100-mile or in the last couple of years, or really like you can get by not having done one of those, but like you'll have to have credentials like
yeah, sure.
that they're, and like, so they have this, I don't know if I'm just going to say there's 1,000-person people in that like team race. So they have all the infrastructure set up from that. Like, there's a command center. There's 20 people with 40 monitors and
Right.
a board, and like they're making notes on every runner in the 50-person race of like this person. We checked on them for medical here. We checked on they were off course here, and you don't know that during the time, but you check in the board later on. You're like, oh, I guess I got a red flag there.
Hopefully Terry Davis at Northburn is taking notes of this level of care.
Terry, let him suffer. No drones. Let him go on a loop forever.
He'd probably
Yeah,
just fly a
drones.
drone with a sign underneath it. They're like, haha, you sucker, you paid
Yeah.
for this, or
Harder.
something like that.
Drop really cold water balloons on people.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just make it harder. I'm keen to hear, like, it's obviously a really long distance. What do you think are keys to success for going that long? Like, a lot of people won't have any experience of doing something like that, and they wouldn't probably know where to start. Like, it's quite different to going for your local 100K or 100-miler.
Yeah, I mean, there's preparation, like, and that seems like obvious, but like to be really well trained, to train with your pack, super important. To know what the course is like. I did tons of, I created my own route, and I looked over every meter of course to see where I wanted to stay on the recommended route and do my own. To choosing the gear, like the less you have to carry, like there's a bunch of mandatory gear, and
Yeah. So what are
Right.
the rules where with carrying food and things like that? Like,
you have to leave the aid stations with 2,000, or the 10 major checkpoints with 2,000 kilocalories. So not a ton, but like there were probably people carrying a lot more than that. And I knew I was never going to eat more than 2,000 kilocalories between, even if I like got caught in a blizzard and was sleeping in my bag, like I'm going to be fine for the 50K between a major checkpoint. But like, yeah, you have to have a puffy jacket, a sleeping bag. And I think my pack without water was 3 kilos, but that's because I was
Wow.
relentless in cutting weight. I mean, like from cutting my pack down literally to
Mm.
figuring out what the best system was for like a headlamp and not like a battery system for charging electronics, whether that's my phone or other stuff. 'Cause I'm navigating by my phone.
Mhm.
Have you got any hot tips there? Like, because I'm curious about that. Like, I presume you have a small battery charger to keep everything going.
Yeah, I had the Night Core 6K carbon battery, which is I think they released last year. And it's
Right.
6,000 milliamp hours, I think would be the right terminology.
Mhm.
But it's, I mean, milliamp hours per gram, it's just the best.
It's light. It's really
Ooh.
light. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, like it's like essentially the same size as your normal like lipstick battery you could buy at the local convenience store, but instead of being in like a machined aluminum or metal case, it's in carbon, so it just cuts down on the weight. It's
Mhm.
Wow.
but also one of the nice things that they made a little. I wasn't planning to use it to charge my headlamp, because I would charge everything up if I could at these major checkpoints where I'd stop and make a D-high meal or whatever.
Oh yeah,
But
okay. Yeah.
that Nightcore battery could sit in a little holster behind my head and be a inline throughput to my headlamp if my headlamp battery was running out. So like rather than like separately charging it, like it could just power in the moment. But then I could also use it to charge my phone. So it's developing those systems. Like other people might have had like dedicated extra batteries for their headlamp and a dedicated battery for their phone and so on. And so I was just like, all right, like sat down and like went through the different pieces and charging cables and like, how do I simplify my whole setup?
Okay, yeah, always keen to know. My pack always weighs far too much because I'm not very good at that sort of thing.
I mean, like to the point of like, I realized that I was supposed to fly on a Sunday, and Friday morning I wake up in bed and I'm like, I don't think my sleeping bag meets the requirements. Like there's just been like kind of a thread overnight on like the group chat. I'm like, damn it. Because I'd been planning on like this certain sleeping bag for like, I'd planned to bring it 5 years earlier. And I was planning to use it again. And like, just the way the language was in the regulations that year, it was like the comfort level versus the, like, not the extreme level, but like the level that your bag is, like the label says, I might say it's a -5C bag. But that's not the rating. That's just what they're selling it as.
Right.
So it's like, and it turns out the company I did had never done the certification testing. It's just like what they gave the different types of ratings as like experientially. So anyway, I literally was online ordering a sleeping bag. One of the people who was coming from the States a couple days later, like volunteered to have me like ship him a new sleeping bag. And so
it's
I had
stressful.
the standard, but like I did it in a really light way possible because like I probably had a sleeping bag that would have been an extra like 400 grams more, but carrying 400 grams over 400 kilometers.
Adds up. How much water did you have to leave each aid station with?
There was no requirement, thankfully. I mean, you had to have 2 liters capacity, and I had a 600 ml soft flask, and I think I had a whatever I found to be the lightest 2 liter like platypus bladder that I just rolled up, put in the bottom of a dry bag, and like left for the. So I never left an aid station with more than, I don't know if it was a 500 or 600 ml soft flask.
And that was fine. That was enough.
That's fine. It was cool enough weather, but like it also knew it was hotter the first time I did it, and I never carried more than in that ballpark, because I could just, if I was at a checkpoint, if I wanted to, I could just down an entire bottle, like a 500 ml bottle of water, and then take one to go. Or if I wanted to drink a liter, and whatever, I could just. I felt comfortable, and then again, if I had to catch up, either preload or catch up afterward, I felt pretty comfortable with that.
Listening to it, trying to make things light as possible. I just remember when Zach Miller came and ran Tarawera, we were waiting for a van that never came to bring us to the start line, and while we were waiting, he was ripping the tags off his shoes, the branding tags, just to make his shoes. Well, I don't know what that would have weighed, half a gram, whatever it was away. He was taking everything off he could.
I didn't do. I was going to say what I didn't do. When I did it, when I ran the marathon to Saab, which you have to carry like all your food and everything for the entire week. I mean, aside from water in the tent.
Right.
But like, so we would repackage the D-high meals because the D-high bags were pretty heavy to begin with. But then if you put food in a Ziploc bag, I don't know what you would call that, but a little
that works.
That's what we call it. Yeah.
I would like cut the part above the zip off, or most, maybe I'd leave a little tab. But if you have 25 bags, like that's, I don't know, like 20 or 12 or 13 grams. But you do that with everything. You do that with the tags. If you do that, if you've got like a zip cord that you want to use for something on your backpack, but you don't need all of it, like you cut half of it off and it's 10 grams there. But if you do that on every piece of apparel, and like if you have a little, I forget the term, but like the little like hangy thing on the back of your shoe, like that you're not going to use, like you give you the pull, like cut it off. Like, I don't know, like just being relentless with all of that. And it seems silly, but like 1 gram there, if you do that 50 times, is 50 grams. And
and 150,000 steps in a race, or however many it is. You're right. That adds
I
up.
wish I could look back at what that is. That's a lot of steps. It's a lot.
Yeah. Oh,
it must have been 500,000. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be 500,000.
Yeah, it must be.
500,000 to 1 million, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. It's a lot of steps.
Yeah, Strava doesn't tell me how many steps. That's a shame. That'd be a nice stat.
You'll
a lot of.
your watch would tell you. I'm sure you could probably look
I'm
back
sure
and
it
go,
did.
oh yeah.
That was the cool thing. My watch still had more than half its charge when I finished.
Wow.
I was kind of like not stressing out, but like before the race, like, do I get a new one? Just because I'd had mine for like 3 years, like had the battery degraded enough, like,
Mhm.
and I had chargers stashed on the course. But yeah, I finished. I'm like, oh, I think I finally like took a photo of it a couple days after the race, and I'd done a couple runs since, and it was like still at 47%. I'm like, yes.
Sounds like a free plug for the watch. What watch was it?
Coros Vertex 2.
Oh, the Vertex 2, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean the battery life is just, and I
Lasts
turned
forever.
off some of the, like I'd turned down, like I didn't have the dual frequency GPS version or whatever. Like you just kind of tweak what you think you need, and this is like wide open desert, so I didn't feel like
Yeah,
I
you're
needed
not doing hairpin corners and things like that.
I might
Although
have just GPS only, as opposed to all of the satellite arrays that you can use.
there is one very unusual turn you've got towards the end there. You've got like what does appear to be almost a 180 turn at how far along are we? 370 kilometers along.
Yeah,
Maybe-
there was a final checkpoint out at the end of that.
Oh, okay. And then you had to just turn around and head for home. Okay.
Yeah, which was really interesting because I had taken the lead on the like 25 or 30 kilometer straightaway leading to that corner of a triangle.
Oh, so you had
So
only just taken the lead towards the end.
Oh yeah, like a marathon
Oh, wow.
to go. And
Oh, so you were running scared.
I was running confident.
Okay.
Hey, I was going to say, all confident.
Nice.
No, I passed with authority, and the gals.
Oh.
Thing.
Okay, wait. Talk
There-
us through what that means, please. Pass with authority.
Well, like it's interesting because there's duality. Like I would have, if the last runner I passed was Gu Bing, a Chinese runner, and like we'd actually spent like a bunch of time at various parts early in the course together. We actually were at the major checkpoint on the, I don't know, with like 50 some K to go. He was in there and I came in and he left. So he left 25 minutes before me. But anyway, like if I had passed him and like he was roughly going my pace, I would have loved to have finished with him. Like he
yeah.
was stopped when I passed him, or had been stopped, and like he kind of looked like he was in a little trouble. And like I actually took my phone out of airplane mode, pulled up Google Translate. I'm like, do you need anything? Like, are you okay? Do you need anything? And he was like, no. And like, if I could have run in with him, I would have. But I also, like, it was clear that wasn't, like, we weren't going to fall into sync pace wise. And I was trying to run. There was like two last sides of a triangle essentially, and the second to last was 25 or 30 K on a due west bearing, slightly downhill on like open terrain. I'm like, I'm going to run every step of this I can. And it's not fast, but I'm going to run every step I can. And then the course took a turn and went up for roughly 30 kilometers, like not steep at all, but like I'm pretty confident in my like ability to walk fast. And I knew that if I walked up that hill, like there's like two guys that could have been relatively close to me. There's no way they're going to walk faster up this hill than me. And if they can run by me, great. Like they're in a better spot than I am. And so I just made that final turn and basically walked every step up that incline, like pretty mild incline at places. But I'm like, I didn't even go 100% walking effort. I'm like, I'm going to go lock in at 90%. I'd rather be a little bit off my maximum. I just passed like the last two guys moving much. I'd been catching them pretty quickly and was moving much faster than them. And I knew that. And so I'd rather like go a little bit off my maximum. And like you can pull out the Prefontaine quotes of like anything but your best or whatever is like to like lose or whatever it is. Like, no, to do anything but your best is sacrifice the gift. I'm like, no, I'd rather like run this in at a good solid finishing effort rather than eke every second and have the wheels fall off. So that's what I did. And I'd had like was puking or dry heaving on like that second to last straightaway.
Ooh.
Then like kind of just laughed it off. And I'm like, okay, I can't eat right now. And I let my stomach settle, but I was still moving good. I hadn't bonked. So I just kind of rolled with it. I didn't eat in the last 50K.
Oh,
Wow.
But
crikey.
the fun thing is, like, I don't know, with 15 or 20K to go, like my stomach started coming around. And again, I didn't want to risk it because, like, it's pretty demoralizing, like that close to the end. If my energy's still good and I'm not puking, like, I'd rather just keep moving on that solid effort than take some food and like start puking and like kind of lose it mentally, or panic or whatever. Just
Agree.
like, but the nice thing is, my stomach started rumbling in a good way. And then I was like, ooh, I've got another little secret weapon here. Maybe I was carrying a 600 mil or whatever Coke that I carried already
Ooh.
like at like 30 kilometers at this point. And I'm like, oh, and because I didn't carry any water at that point. I was like, this is fine. Like, so I have fluids and I have water, right? Or these easy calories right here. And I can pull that if I really need to, like get a little jet fuel in the engine. So anyway, like I when I made that final pass, like I wasn't cocky about it, but I knew I had a race plan, run as much as I could to this final downhill point, and from that point walk with strength and purpose up, and that was either going to win the race or not. But I felt I had a good plan and was in a good place. So
And just looking at the satellite, it looks like you would have had pretty good visual if someone was coming up behind you. You could see a long way.
oh
Right?
yeah, that's part of the point, is like,
Yeah.
so that corner was interesting because, like, it wasn't like, it was like 2 or 3K, like 2K maybe we went, like, was straight out and back. So like I knew at
You
the
could
end of
see
that
it.
2K I had a 4K lead and I didn't see a headlamp. I started making the turn, but you're still like looking down the course, and I got to 3K and I'm like, oh, that's a 6K lead. And I literally had just passed him 15, 21K ago at that point. So I'm like, oh, I just put
Ooh.
6K on and
Yeah,
21K.
yeah. It's pretty
Actually,
good.
there was one checkpoint in that second to last straightaway, and I passed him maybe 10 minutes before it. I just got a I just went straight through that checkpoint, like scanned my card and went. And I was 12 minutes out of the checkpoint when I saw him go past, because it was at night and I could see. So the same, like I'm going up this incline and I'm looking back and I'm like, okay, I've got 6K and I'm moving on. I can't even see his light.
Darkness, yeah.
And then I had my phone on airplane most of the time, but I called my wife Megan and then I couldn't reach her, and I called my sister, and I'm like, hey, can you pull up the map by any chance? And like, and like,
Boy.
there's nothing wrong with it. But like they were like, the other folks were
They're doing
definitely,
it too,
the Chinese
yeah.
competitors were definitely
Yeah, all right.
getting updates and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, all right, hey sis, how far up am I?
That's great.
Because it's just not in a cocky way, but I'm like, that like gives me more confidence. All right, like stay in that
Oh, yeah.
90% zone. You're feeling great. You're moving well. Don't mess this up. So
Well, you didn't mess it up. So what was your margin in the end, do you know? Over second.
4 hours. Something like that.
Wow.
And that wasn't the guy that was in second then. I beat him by like 5.5 or 6.5.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The guy who finished second was Sange Sherpa from Nepal, who lives in France some of the time. But he had gone way off course.
Oh, no.
On kind of like with 50 some K to go. And I actually saw him the second to last major checkpoint. I was 10K out of that going in the right direction. And I see this headlamp coming back at me. I'm like, I thought this might be Gu Bing. Like he had was in a bad place and needed help or whatever it was. But no, it was Sange. And like, I've known him for decades on the like kind of the world scene, and like was just crushed because he asked like how far back to the checkpoint. And I was like 10K. And like, we're like, I'm losing it. Like I'm giving him this huge hug and we're just like,
Aw.
anyway, that was like such a show of strength. He
stayed on course.
He'd gone off course, like his nav had died, which is kind of his problem or fault. Like I had 4 different versions of systems to navigate on. But he didn't. And so he had to go back that 10K and then go back on the course. And that's just such mental strength.
Yeah, that is amazing recovery. I mean, when a course is that big, going off course, it's just amplified, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, and like it's interesting because like Ali was asking about like advice, and like part of it's preparing, but like part of it's patience, part of it's accepting what goes wrong, like dealing with it. But like I was trying to do these various places where I was cutting shortcuts or different routes as opposed to the recommended course. And I knew that some of them weren't going to necessarily work out. And if 60% of them did, I'm like, all right, I probably did all right here. And like I had to be prepared to accept that. And like one of them, it ended up being the general alternate route I took was great. The details for about 10 or 15 minutes, like I saved 45 minutes, but I could have saved an hour if I hadn't like kind of messed up the, not navigation, but like just I came to a river and like, do I have to cross here? Do I have to go downstream? Whatever. So
Oh,
like,
yeah.
and I just couldn't let that bother me.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a pretty good route you've taken. I mean, there's not a lot. I mean, there's no turning around or anything like that, is there? It's you generally
No,
nailed
nobody
it.
would know that where I was kind of searching around for a little bit. You would not
No,
figure
yeah.
that out. So that's good. I mean, like it was pretty clean, but it wasn't 100%. But the same with like there was a really section where I crossed a river like 15 times, and my shoes were working really well. I wore one pair of shoes all 400K,
Wow.
and like they were just working. It was the devil you know versus the devil you don't. So it was just like I cut like the heel rim off the insoles because like I get blisters there, and like I did that on the course and like was working out. So I'm like, every one of those 15 or whatever it was river crossings in the short section, I took my shoes and socks off for
Oh,
time
yeah.
after time after
Whoa.
time, and it was just so mentally frustrating.
Oh man.
And but I actually, and I kind of let it get in my head a little bit, and then I got to the checkpoint right after that, and I sat in the chair. I'm like, I'm going to give myself 10 or 15, 5 or 10 or 15 minutes, and just eat and drink, but like let this frustration pass. Like you just
Reset.
address the problems and let the frustrations go. And like it was the whole effort for me was like a practice in wisdom, like not just intelligence, but like wisdom, like learning everything I've learned and applying it and not letting things rattle me and addressing problems and being patient. And like, how do you like eat an elephant one bite at a time? Like you can't think, like I set up my screens on my watch that I never had the total time or the total, maybe the total, I don't think the total time, but I didn't have the total mileage visible. I got a lap distance, so I knew how far I'd been from the last checkpoint.
Okay.
So I could kind of like know how far I had to get to food and water and whatever. But I would like intentionally not thinking of my place. I had like reminders later on, like when I was actually kind of getting in the thick of things. I was listening to a Taoist story of like basically somebody or the need to win and like this archer shooting for like different prizes, and like when he's home he's the best, like he's just nailing the bullseye every time, but like he starts to think of a little prize and he kind of gets distracted, and then he's thinking of like the big gold prize, and like he's a mess, he's blind, he can't shoot, like he's just gone nuts. And I like when things started going really well at the end, I kept thinking like, don't try to win, try to run your best race, and if that leads you to win, great. And if you run your best race and don't, you ran your best race. Somebody shot better that day. So
I love that comment about wisdom, and I guess wisdom also comes with experience.
Yeah.
And it's often with these races, it's not because you did one thing right; it's because you did 1,000 little things right, and it all adds up, you know. To
100%.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, talking about you changing shoes and socks and taking them off at rivers. Like perhaps that was actually the key to success, even though it was really frustrating. Maybe that was the thing that helped you, get through so well.
Yeah, I mean, I did maybe not the last two, but like the first 8 major checkpoints of the 10, I would take off my shoes and socks. I had a change of socks, but I would have a little like shop towel, like a little like throwaway like rag essentially, and I'd rinse my feet and I'd wash between every or toe, and it would only take me a minute a foot or whatever. It wasn't some like spick and span operation, but like I'm gonna get the grit out, because the first time I did it, I had such horribly blistered feet, and I was like, I'm gonna take care of myself as well as I can, as long as I can. And that was just something whether it's eating, drinking, food, I like safing or anything like that, like I'm gonna avoid problems, and when they happen, I'm gonna address them. And like if I get to do some races that I've done in the past, like I'd love to go back to Western States after a really long hiatus. And I always had really bad foot problems there, because your feet get wet in the high country because of the snow, and then there's the river various river crossings, and I'd actually soak in them to cool my core temperature down. And even if you're like dumping water on yourself to stay cool, but that gets your shoes and socks wet. And I'd have to think through like how much time I want to spend dedicating to like keeping my feet dry or drying them off or whatever. But I would definitely approach it differently than I have in the
Mm.
past.
Mm.
Just because
Oh,
like if you can feel good and run strong, like later, like not having blisters. I mean, I probably 7 or 8 blisters through the race, but every time I did, I'd lance it when it was small, and it would never grow anymore, and I'd forget about it, and like I'd move
Mm.
on, and yeah, and my feet didn't. I mean, in the end, I get a little sore. I mean, you cover 400K in 3 days, and they're about to be a little like tired, but
yeah.
I wasn't like,
Are you taping them?
nope, no,
Any
And
kind of loop?
talcum powder, anything?
nope,
Okay.
nothing.
Mm.
Actually, the worst part of my blistering, I don't mind toe blisters, but I get on the outside and back of my heels, like it's called a heel rim blister under the callus,
Ew.
and they build up super bad pressure and are super painful. So I know I can like reduce that a little bit by filing the heck out of them for like weeks leading up to it. But the night before, I went a little too gangbusters and like
Oh, no.
got like one of them a little like raw, like not like, don't think hamburger, but like it overdid a little bit, and I taped that before the race, and of course I get blisters like on the tape edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, first checkpoint, that tape's done. We're just pop those blisters or like move on.
Did you say you were cutting so in the insert in your shoe, you're cutting the heel, that sort of cut part of the insert,
Yep.
is that right? You
And
cut
I did that
out.
like at a checkpoint. I'm like I don't speak Mandarin, so I'm like doing the international sign for scissors.
Yes.
And like somebody gets a med kit and like, here.
Yep.
And I just in a folding camp chair at 3,000 plus meters in the middle of some mountain pass in the Gobi. I'm like, all right, time to fix my shoes.
Give this a go. That's good.
And I'm leaving New Zealand tomorrow, and I actually brought that one pair of Nike Pegasus 41s with me and ran it with them a bunch here, but like they're done. And like it's this hardest thing of like, all right, I wore one pair of shoes for the race of my life, and like it's hard to throw them out, but I'm going to. But I'm saving those insoles, and if I go back to the Gobi this year, I might literally or I'll use them as a template to like what worked in terms of cutting them.
Feel like you should take a photo of them to put on your wall as a memento or something
Oh, I
like
definitely
that.
got
Yeah.
I took a photo for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good.
yeah, great idea though. Yeah, because you can keep memories that way. Like you don't need all
Yeah.
physical stuff. It is hard to like let those things go, but it's just a pair of shoes that I've probably run, I don't know, 1,000 kilometers in
Yeah.
all told. So
Special
they're
ones.
done. Yeah.
Hey, speaking of memories, this morning Kerry was telling me about a second-hand or even third-hand memory, and he said that Paul had told him the story, Paul Charteris had told him the story about Megan Arbogast and yourself, as well as Paul, sitting at a table, I'm guessing now what must have been 20 plus years ago. And he said that Paul talks about you guys sitting down after a trail run, and Paul talking about wanting to go into hosting events, Megan talking about wanting to make a career out of her running, and you talking about wanting to write. So it's obviously second or third hand, but is it true?
That sounds totally plausible. I'm trying to remember that moment. I have a very similar memory of myself and Paul and Jez Bragg, who uh,
Mm-hmm.
won UTMB on a shortened course years ago. We were all up in, I think it was Tuolumne Meadows in Yosemite National Park in California before a Western States. I don't know if that's when Paul lived in the States.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if Jez if he was running in Western States that year and had a training camp. And this is like the era of the running blog. And I guess we were all just knew each other from that. And I was living outside of Yosemite at the time. So we went up and camped for a couple nights in Yosemite National Park. And I was like distinctly remember like I actually have thought about writing of it just in the last week. I'm writing that story of I was just going out to work on iRunFar full time, or I just had, and like I didn't know where I was going to go. Like I didn't know if I was going to put on races or camps or coach, or I was coaching at the time, or what that
Mm-hmm.
like how I was going to make it work. Paul was talking. It was before Paul had Tara Weir in mind, but he was talking about a race in California in New Zealand, and this is before Jez won UTMB, and it was like this I call it the moment of like like before it all crystallized. You hear like those stories of like the rock band that's playing, at the local pub, sounds like crap. Like the Beatles playing whatever their thousand nights in Germany or whatever. What would you just like, I know not that we like did all this together, but like here's these three guys like just up in the mountains in the beautiful setting. Like, all right, so where's our passion going to take us? And like it kind of blossoms after that. So
What would
yeah,
you say to those guys now, like looking back?
like let's look back. Like that's just incredible. Like we all got like Paul's not the race director, Tara Ware anymore. Jez is still running. Like I follow him on
Yeah.
Strava, but he's not doing it to the extent he used to. He's like, and I'm not the editor in chief or the owner of
No,
iRunFar
yeah.
anymore. Like I still work at it, but like, uh, but we've all like moved into that place in life for various lengths of time and then moved out.
Mm,
So it'd be fun to recoalesce and like talk about the highs of that moment and also the moving
mm,
on. Because
yeah.
like, I mean, that's part of life in so many ways. Like you work towards something, you experience it, and then you move on. Like there's always talk of people like getting the marathon blues after their big focused marathon. And it happens in ultras too. Like, but that could be in all aspects of our life. Like if that's the career you work toward and then step away from, if that's, I mean, I feel like incredibly fit and strong as a runner right now, but I'm a hell of a lot slower than I used to be. Like I'm proud of where I am physically, but like I'm not going to get to that pinnacle of shorter distance speed again. So it's like, how do you gracefully transition, like looking with fondness back to where you grew from, where you grew into, and then acknowledging, accepting, and enjoying where you are maybe
Mm,
after that journey.
I look fondly back on the iRunFar. Well, for me, early years, when how your first few years of discovering ultra running is always so exciting, and you just start soaking in everything that you can find online. And of course, iRunFar, that was for me about 2011, 2012, was just this beacon of information. I remember even seeing, because you'd go to events, and I remember seeing you. I can't remember what it was. It was a race in America, and you had set up your little live stream camera. And then at one point, you panned the camera around and you were just holding up a sign that said, "Please support iRunFar." And, it's back to the thing. And there was something so rootsy and relatable and friendly about it all. It was definitely I mean, not throwing any shade at modern iRunFar, but there was a lovely sort of, good old days, rose-tinted glasses feel about it.
Totally. I had totally forgotten about, but now I definitely distinctly remember like a couple incidents of that. Like, yeah, because I hated the monetization aspect of it. Like, goodness, and like I didn't have ads on iRunFar for the first year and a half I was full time. It was all like coaching income because I felt fine about that. I'm offering a service. Like I hated to put ads up. I hated to like get support from people enjoying iRunFar. I didn't like. I had to do like the ad and marketing sales, and like I despised that, and I would always like do the least possible. Like it was never for that, but like that's part of what you have to do to survive. So yeah. There was fun stuff along the way too, like whether it was those signs in a live broadcast or
Like a really
selling like shirts around, like doing hard rock coverage, and like I still have like 4 or 5 of them through the years. And
just the feeds for Western States, and like there would always be like a camera set up just as people were coming into Forest Hill, but it was like super pixelated, and you just see the occasion like, but it was cool. It was like, wow, you can actually see the runners, and it was. I think you were just grateful to have anything at all. It was really cool. And now it's a 24-hour live stream, and people get annoyed when the audio cuts out. It's like, you don't know how good you've got it.
Yeah, things have changed, things have grown. I don't know, but I still like the nuggetized aspect of like whether it's on Twitter or another platform of like just that style of coverage, or on Facebook or Instagram, whatever it is, like to give people the option and the alternative of like whether they are watching a live stream, like they're complementary. Like you could be watching the live stream, like come back and look at the kind of play by play, as it were, of the sport while you're like went for your long run or went and took care of your kids or whatever it is, went to work. And then you come back and you can catch up on it and then dive into the video aspect.
I'm gonna have all the screens going for Western States this year. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be a good year.
Is something going on in Western States this year?
Oh, I think there's a couple of reasonable runners turning up. I don't know, the odd one or two.
I'll be there. You'll have to apologize. Y'all be stuck with me for some iRunFar interviews this year. I'll be back.
Love it, mate. Love it. Totally. Yeah. We'll never forget the infamous Walmsley Tipsy interview. That was magnificent.
Oh, people remember that one. People never remember the fact that, like, I don't know. I'm sure I would be surprised if iRunFar didn't have the first video interview with Walmsley back at Speed Goat when maybe that's his first ultra. It was his first ultra, like way back in the
Wow.
day.
You could put together a best of. It would be really cool. Quite interesting.
Best of, man.
Just get
There's
some
other
zingers.
memorable ones. Maybe not the semi inebriated Walmsley one, but there's some interviews. Jason Schlarb, the both of us shirtless before or after Tarawera in a stream in Rotorua. Like what?
Magnificent.
Some on like a paddle boat, like a 2-person little like paddle boat in a pond after a La Sportiva Mountain Cup race ages ago. There's some classic ones. Megan interviewing for Anna, like both of them laid back on a couch drinking wine after both had run Hard Rock.
I think you might have to go back to that for Western
I was
this year,
going to
mate.
say, that's quite appealing. I'd like to see some interviews like that.
Yeah, they're there.
Yeah.
Gotta find.
Yeah, it'll be a really, really fascinating race to watch unfold.
Yeah.
Anything? So I know it's a bit of a cliche question, but any races around the world that you've had your eyes on for years and not been able to do? Anything on the bucket list yet to be ticked off?
No, I'd say there's plenty of races that I've done before that I want to go back to, but like I'd love to go run Lavaredo someday.
Oh, cool.
There's a 100-miler in Basque Country, a Humalak.
Okay.
And I just love Basque Country. I've been in the Basque Country for Zagama Marathon many years, and like that's a little short and pointy. It would be super fun to run, but like running 100-miler over there it would be special. I'd love to run a race in Mongolia someday. I don't know if I've had running in Mongolia on my to-do list for about 35 years, well
Wow.
before I was an ultra runner. And there's this little race on the North Island I kind of want to come run someday.
What is it?
Have you never run Tarawera?
Tarawera?
Yeah.
Little race.
I honestly, I looked into it this year. If I could have figured out a way to do it on the cheap, I would have been up on this year. But that's not a dig at like the entry fee. It's
You
just
can never
like,
dig at the entry fee.
I was on the South Island, but it's like putting together the car rental and the lodging and just like all the steps that you have to do to pull off a race. But who knows? Maybe next year I'll make the trip north. And
Yeah, you should, mate.
is that next year? Or is that? Yeah, that is
Yeah.
next year. I'm trying.
That'd be the miler. Would you come for?
No, I'd probably run the classic.
Oh, okay.
Whatever the 102K is at this point in terms of length. But it's funny because like I did cover it so many years that, and again, the course has changed a lot over the years, and I don't even know what the current one exactly looks like, but just being familiar with the area, like knowing a bunch of people up in that area, like Megan and I came up and visited Rotorua last year at this time, and it was super special seeing Allie and Carrie and Paul and there's other people around the race that I know. So it'd just be super fun to come back and run those. I had in my mind that after covering it 5 years, which never came around, but if I'd covered it 5 years, I wanted to come back the following year and run the race. And,
Well, mate, it sounds like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
locked in. Sounds locked
Yeah,
in for next
lock
year.
it in.
Yeah, I'm
Lock
putting
it
it in now. Add you to the
Yeah.
elite entry list, I reckon.
no,
Winner of the
to
Gobi.
the entry list.
Yeah. Right. I reckon it's time to ask you. I'm sure you got asked because you've been on the podcast before, haven't you? And one of the things that we do is ask about your greatest run ever. So you would have shared it before with us, and I'm not sure if it's updated since then, but if it's not the same, then what is your greatest New Zealand run ever?
Greatest New Zealand run ever. You got to give me a second to think about that. 'Cause
Okay. I'm sure there's been a lot since he's been playing around on our trails for months each summer.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is I have so many just great memories. I mean, literally, what's today? Saturday. On Wednesday, I did a lap of Lake Howia. I just went
Oh,
out and did a
cool.
105K run around that, and it was super special. I don't know, maybe it would be. I'm going to pull this one out of. This is not because it was necessarily the most beautiful or the best run physically I had, but back in the day before Tarawera, was only one year there was a Rogaine, like
Oh,
an
yeah.
orienteering style race before the event, and it was me, Charteris. I think Hoogie was there. Carrie was on the team, and then like,
I think I remember
oh
this.
my goodness, we just had such a good time. And I did just blank on his name. There was and I know him really well, the Swedish ultra runner.
Oh yeah.
Jonas Bud.
Jonas Bood. Thank you. I mean, I feel bad. I mean, I still follow him on Strava. I look at his runs regularly. But
Yeah.
yeah, Jonas was a good orienteer.
Yeah.
And like, he was super competitive, even if he was running the 100K a couple days later. And he was like, we kind of fanned out a little bit as a team. Like, weren't all like always within arm reach. And he was
Disqualified.
well, not seriously, but like we just had a super fun time. Like it was just like these four, I don't know, there's 4 or 5 of us, like, like people like kind of most of us a little past our prime on the running side, all in short shorts. Chargers is out there with us, and we're just like running our butts off trying to win this throw game. We're just bashing through the bush, like no holds barred. We were going for it. So that's my best run in New Zealand.
Were you victorious?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Savage, mate.
I have to ask Carrie about that one.
I will. I think I remember it. And it was a very eclectic bunch, but a very serious approach to the social Rogaine the night before the race.
Oh, 100%. Tim Day might have been on I'm pretty sure he would have been on our team. Like, so yeah, I wish I would. Well, hopefully, maybe I need to find a photo of that and get that to y'all. It's not on my
That would
computer.
be great.
That'd be so good.
I don't know when you're going to release this, but I'll try to get on my my external hard drive when I get home.
Couple
That
of
was
weeks.
a classic.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, bring back the Rogaine. They were fun.
That was super fun. I need to get on one of Terry's when I'm back over here next season.
Cool.
Yep.
Because he puts on a bunch of race games.
He
I have a
does.
Terry event on my schedule for next year, and that's his cavalcade.
Oh, cavalcade's so good. Yeah.
I had never heard of this in all my trips to New Zealand until we're out on a fishing charter out of Oban on Stewart Island. Actually, we were at the bar afterward with the captain, and he was telling us that he had just come back from cavalcade. And I was like, what the heck is... And like, obviously not the running portion, or not obviously, but he was not there for the running, but he was like there for the wagon portion of the cavalcade. And I'm like, how have I not heard of this? And sign me up. So
you would love it. You and Megan would love it.
as soon as before I even knew there was a running aspect, I'm like, I'm going to this. Like, I don't care if I like run to it. I don't care. And now I found out there's an actual like set.
You know who kind of instigated it to become a running one?
Nope.
Terry, because Terry was telling him about it, and he was like, come on, Terry, you've got to add a running section. This is amazing. And so that's how it started. Yeah. Well, obviously,
Gosh,
Terry
it's such
agreed.
a fun small world. Like,
Yeah.
I just love it. Like, I mean, to be fair, like right now I'm in like Mal and Sal Law's cottage. That's where I've been. Like, that's my South Island base.
Oh, you've been putting up with Mel this whole time? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I got rid of him for the last week, but no.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah. Oh yeah, he's in Australia, isn't he? That's right.
Yeah, like that's just I mean, you know where he is. Like that's just the brilliant thing about the New Zealand running community is really special. Like I don't know, like I was at the Patagonia store in Queenstown a couple weeks ago. Because they have a fly bar. I love fly fishing. So I was just like, they have an event every Sunday. And I'm talking to the two people who are hosting it. And they were telling me about this guy who works for Southland Fish and Game, this Dwight. You need to get in touch with Dwight. And they like didn't have his information. Long story short, it's this guy, Dwight Grieve.
Yeah.
And like, it turns out he did like part of Mal's high 5-0 with him. And like, so Mal tells me one night as we're having dinner about this particular story about his high 5-0 adventure and Dwight coming out with him. And I relate that a few days later to Dwight that I knew Mal, and we had this person in common. And he tells me the same story via email. And it's just this like great little, like, you're like in the New Zealand trail running community, 2 degrees of separation from somebody. So.
Yeah, 2 degrees max.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Dwight's a bit of a savage on the old Kepler as well. He's got a bit of a history there, hasn't he? Very good Kepler
Yeah, I
runner.
didn't realize people were like talking to me like, oh, there's this guy who's a runner who also does some fly fishing. You can get in touch with him. I'm like, oh yeah, he represented New Zealand twice at Trail World Championships, blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. So maybe I'll meet up with him for a fish instead of a run, because there's no way I'm running. He's like still a 33 minute 10K guy at like 47 or 48. So yeah,
Age is not a barrier anymore, eh? Yep.
nope. Anyway,
Oh, awesome, mate. Thank you so much. Wishing you safe travels back to
thanks.
USA. Hopefully they let you in. Don't talk any politics at the border and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
I was about to say, hopefully they don't let me in, and I just have to take the return flight back to.
Right back. We'll have you, mate. We'll have you.
Yeah,
to
you're always
Auckland.
welcome.
Can somebody pick me up at the Auckland airport in like 2.5 days?
Easy.
Andrew lives in Auckland. We're sorted.
20-minute drive, mate. No worries.
Yeah.
Regardless, I can't wait to be back in New Zealand in a few short months, and then hopefully someday back on Dirt Church Radio.
Fantastic.
It's been a pleasure having you. So good to see you, Bryon.
Likewise. Take care.
Whew, that was long. That was very long. Oh my
But
goodness.
so good.
Oh man, I was just like, just keep going, like a train.
I wanted to keep going too. I didn't want to. There were so many questions that I'm like, I want to go here now. I want to go here. But it was a great chat. Thank you very much for tuning in. All the best to everyone doing the Summerhill Skedaddle and Sri Chinmoy next weekend, Andrew.
Woo!
We'll look forward to hearing how it goes. Dirt Church Radio is presented by me, Ali Pottinger, Matt Raymond, and
Andrew McDowell.
we're on all the podcast platforms, so like, follow, and give us a rating. It helps. We're on social media at Dirt Church Radio, email at dirtchurchradio@gmail.com.
Now, don't forget to sign up to our Substack for weekly newsletter and Aid Station podcast. Don't forget to write in with your greatest run ever. We'd love to hear from you, and you can read them on the website too. Thanks to our supporters, Further Faster. That's it. Squad Run and our Substack subscribers and the DCR Aid Station crew.
Stay tuned for our show in 2 weeks when we have another great guest lined up. Mā te wā, hei kone rā.